also, though, been criticized in some cases by your own people, by your fellow colleagues. Were you seeking in this moment validation, or that wasn't something either that you paid any attention?
What happens when Hollywood's most respected actor refuses to even stand next to one of the industry's richest moguls? On one side, Denzel Washington, a man whose name is synonymous with integrity, discipline, and artistry. On the other, Tyler Perry, the self-made billionaire who climbed from homelessness to owning one of the largest film studios in the world. Both are giants in their own right, but there's one thing you'll never see: a Denzel Washington-Tyler Perry collaboration. And that silence has fans asking, is it just creative differences, or is there something far darker hiding in the shadows of Hollywood? It all began with what sounded like a simple line. Denzel, speaking about theater and life, dropped this gem. "You'll never see a U-Haul behind a hearse, a slick reminder that you can't take material wealth with you when you die." Then came the kicker. The Egyptians tried it, and they got robbed on the surface, just another clever metaphor. But fans immediately started connecting the dots. To them, this wasn't a random observation. It was a sly jab at someone who flaunts wealth and empire while critics accuse him of exploitation. And that someone, they argued, was Tyler Perry. Perry has built his entire public image around showcasing the riches he's earned, the mansions, the private jets, the billion-dollar studio. And while many celebrate it, others see it as arrogance. Denzel's comment was quick, sharp, and vague enough to be deniable. But the smirk, the pause, and the timing? Fans read between the lines. It was classic Denzel, never messy, never direct, but enough to make the entire industry whisper. On paper, these two should be allies. Both are black men who shattered glass ceilings in an industry that once refused to let them in. Denzel commands respect with Oscar-winning performances, while Perry commands billions with his media empire. In theory, they represent the same fight, carving out space in Hollywood for black excellence. And yet, their paths never cross. No films together, no productions side by side, no public shows of solidarity. Insiders whisper that it's no coincidence. Denzel is meticulous about who he aligns with, protecting his career from unnecessary controversy.
Thank you, Mr. Lee Daniels. Thank you, Mr. Tyler Perry. Thank you, Miss Oprah Winfrey. No, baby, I wasn't blackballed. I was about some heavy.
Perry, meanwhile, thrives on chaos and control. They may be kings, but they rule two very different kingdoms. And for Denzel, legacy isn't about empire. It's about integrity. That might explain why he's chosen to keep Perry at arm's length. To the public, Tyler Perry is inspirational. A man who went from sleeping in his car to becoming a billionaire mogul with a 330-acre studio that rivals Disney and Warner Brothers. He's praised for philanthropy, celebrated for creating opportunities, and adored for characters like Medea. But peel back the surface and a different story emerges. Former staff accuse him of exploitation, from underpaying creatives to cutting shady backroom deals. Critics argue his empire was built not just on talent, but on ruthless power plays designed to keep him at the top while others were pushed aside. Perry sells himself as a saint who gave people chances, but the whispers say otherwise. That his generosity often came with strings attached, and that his real talent isn't storytelling. It's control. Now compare that to Denzel. He isn't flawless, but his brand has always been built on discipline, decency, and faith. Fans don't just admire him for his trophies. They admire the way he carries himself when the cameras aren't rolling. He's one of the few actors who managed to climb to the top without drowning in scandal. His career choices reflect that. Denzel is careful, intentional, and protective of his legacy. He doesn't sell shock value, he builds respect. For him, collaborating with someone like Perry could put that reputation at risk. And for Denzel, the price of his good name is simply too high. That's why the whispers about him dodging Perry make sense. Because once you dive into Perry's history of feuds and fallouts, you realize Denzel's silence may be less about indifference and more about survival. If there's one person who exposed Perry's darker side, it's Monique.
When I'm hearing all this noise, man, it was crazy because there were no black people on television. Before diversity became a thing, Tyler Perry was the only one out there for a long time.
The comedian and Oscar-winning actress set the Apollo Theater stage on fire when she called out Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and Lee Daniels by name. She accused them of sabotaging her career after she refused to play their Hollywood games. It all started with Precious. Monique was paid just $50,000 for her role. That was her contract, and she delivered. But when Perry and Oprah pushed her to travel the world promoting the film for free, she said no. That's when the tables turned. Suddenly, she was labeled difficult, blackballed, and iced out of major opportunities. Monique claims Perry personally told her that if she promoted the film, her career would explode. But when she refused to work for free, she became a target. She's repeated for years that Perry went behind the scenes to block her, freezing her out of Hollywood. For her, it wasn't just a disagreement, it was sabotage. After that, Monique's career took a nosedive. The actress who once had Oscar buzz found herself struggling to land gigs. Every interview, every stage appearance, she named names: Perry, Oprah, Daniels. And fans listened. She shared how Perry dismissed her concerns, how Oprah turned her back, how Daniels pretended she wasn't worth defending. For years, she was branded as bitter, until more people started realizing she might have been telling the truth all along. Her fight wasn't just about one movie. It was about the power dynamics of Hollywood, and Perry was right at the center of it. For someone like Denzel, who values respect and principle, that kind of reputation isn't something you'd want attached to your name. And Monique wasn't alone. Spike Lee, one of the most respected filmmakers of his generation, blasted Perry's movies for promoting damaging stereotypes. He called them coonery buffoonery, a phrase that shook the industry. Lee argued that while Perry made money, he wasn't uplifting culture. Instead, his films cashed in on caricatures that made audiences laugh at, not with, black communities.
Each artist should be allowed to pursue the artistic endeavor. But I still think a lot of stuff that's on today is coonery and buffoonery.
For Lee, storytelling was about confronting racism and elevating voices. For Perry, it was about repeating formulas that critics said dragged representation backward. When Spike Lee spoke, Hollywood listened. And once again, Perry was left with a reputation that clashed directly with the values someone like Denzel represents. Then came Chris Rock, who didn't hold back either. Rock joked that if Tupac Shakur were alive today, he might have ended up as the abusive, dark-skinned boyfriend in a Tyler Perry movie. It was funny, but it was also brutal. Rock was highlighting a pattern. Perry's casting choices often put darker-skinned men in villainous roles, while lighter-skinned men were painted as the saviors. Fans had noticed it for years, and Rock's jokes just confirmed the criticism. For someone like Denzel, who has spent his career elevating complex, dignified black characters, that kind of stereotyping would be the ultimate deal-breaker. It wasn't just celebrities. Even Perry's audience began turning against him. In 2020, Netflix released A Fall from Grace. On paper, it should have been a triumph. Big names, dramatic plot, a global platform. Instead, it turned into a disaster. Fans and critics ripped it apart. They called it rushed, sloppy, and filled with harmful tropes about black women being naive, desperate, and punished for chasing love. Many accused Perry of victim blaming, using melodrama as a weapon rather than telling meaningful stories. The backlash was fierce. For many, A Fall from Grace wasn't just a bad movie. It was proof of everything critics had said about Perry for years. This wasn't new. For years, viewers noticed a disturbing pattern in Perry's work. Black women in his films are often humiliated, beaten, jailed, or publicly shamed before finding redemption, usually through a man. Even his most famous character, Medea, has been accused of being less about comedy and more about Perry preaching his own values through a wig and a dress. To critics, Medea isn't a real black woman. She's a caricature used to shame women for their choices. That narrative may have made Perry rich, but it also made him controversial. And it's the kind of controversy Denzel has avoided his entire career. Then came one of the most disturbing revelations. Actor and voice coach Brandon Jay exposing what it was really like to work on Perry's sets. He revealed how Perry scrapped entire scripts at the last minute, forced actors to memorize brand new lines on the spot, and pushed filming at a breakneck pace that left performers drained and humiliated. Brandon described Perry's sets as chaos on fast forward. Entire episodes cranked out in a single day with no time for preparation or artistry. For many fans, his story confirmed the whispers. Perry's empire wasn't about collaboration. It was about control. The chaos didn't stop there. Years earlier, Perry came under fire for firing 4 writers on House of Pain after they asked for union contracts. The Writers Guild of America stepped in, accusing Perry's company of unfair labor practices. Rather than negotiating, Perry doubled down. He got rid of the writer's room altogether, insisting that he personally writes every script for every show. To some, that sounded like dedication. To others, it was proof of how unwilling Perry was to share credit, power, or money. By 2015, things escalated. 2 major actors' unions barred their members from working on Perry's stage play Medea on the Run after his company allegedly refused to sign a union contract. Another labor battle, another scar on his reputation. For Denzel, who has long supported unions and respects the collaborative side of filmmaking, this kind of behavior would be impossible to ignore. Once again, Perry's method stood in direct opposition to everything Denzel stood for. If there's one constant in Perry's career, it's controversy. Whether it's labor disputes, stereotypical storylines, or celebrity feuds, scandal seems to follow him wherever he goes. And yet, his empire keeps growing. To critics, that's the point. Perry doesn't just survive controversy, he thrives on it. It keeps his name in the headlines, his brand relevant, and his empire unshaken. But for Denzel, controversy is poison. His entire career has been about avoiding it, not feeding it. That alone explains why their worlds never collide. Denzel has never openly attacked Perry. He's too smart, too careful, too respected for that. But sometimes silence says more than words. The fact that Denzel has never worked with Perry, never appeared in his orbit, and never entertained collaboration, that silence speaks volumes. Fans see it as quiet resistance, proof that Denzel's integrity won't bend for money or power. And in a world where Hollywood is full of backstabbing and betrayal, that kind of loyalty to principle only makes his legend stronger. And so the question lingers. Will we ever see these 2 giants come together? Or will their differences keep them worlds apart forever? Denzel's silence suggests the answer may already be clear. But Hollywood is full of surprises. Stranger collaborations have happened before. Still, when you weigh the scandals, the criticisms, the betrayals, and the stark difference in values, one thing seems certain. If Denzel Washington and Tyler Perry ever shared the same screen, it would be the most shocking twist in Hollywood history. So now the question goes to you. Do you think Denzel should ever team up with Tyler Perry, or is keeping his distance the smartest move of his career? Let us know down in the comments.